Hello and welcome to another instructional video. This time it's on the 2023 specification Chausson Titanium Ultimate 777. So this is the 23 specification. There are some subtle differences from the 22 spec. They've named it this time the Titanium Ultimate for the 2023 lineup. So first things first, if we deal with the bonnet, with a Ford, this is the Ford 170 brake horsepower automatic. To open the bonnet, you push the key in like so, turn it once anti-clockwise and then once clockwise, and as you're turning it clockwise, if you lift the bonnet, then that will allow you to open it. Okay, with the bonnet open, under here we have the fluids. So we've got the washer fluid, you've got your brake fluid there, oil fill, dipstick, and you've got your coolant on this side here. If you ever need to jump start the vehicle, then the positive terminal goes onto this here. So your red cable goes onto that little nodule there, and there's a plastic cover that sits over the top of that. Your negative or earth goes onto that round metal piece there. So that's your black cable or earth onto that one there. So that deals with the main things that you'd need to know about underneath the bonnet. Working on around the motorhome then, with the cab specifically, you've got the blackout blinds here. Now this is a change from some of the previous models. The way this works is you pull this across like so, slide this up across, and it goes into a corresponding notch there like so. That's your side windows. That's how the blackout blinds are dealt with on the cab windows. So that is exactly the same on the driver's side, dealt with in exactly the same way. On the windscreen, these pull up from the bottom. It is a two-handed operation. When you're inside the motorhome, you can see two handles there. There's one there and one there, and this just simply pulls up past the windscreen, and you can probably see on the inside here, there is a position there, just there, so you can have the blind halfway up, and then there's one further up which will allow you to position the blind so it completely blacks out the entire windscreen. And then it's just a reverse operation back down to open up the side windows. There is, you've got your chassis plate here. With regard to tyre pressures, refer to the actual tyres themselves, because they use specialist camping tyres which are capable of being inflated to higher pressures because they've got reinforced sidewalls, so that allows you to pump them to higher pressures. So yeah, refer to the actual tyres themselves rather than the handbook, which will just have the tyre pressures for a standard van. This flap here reveals the fuel. So you've got your diesel fuel into the top one there, and then the blue additive into the lower one here. Filling stations have got this now, the AdBlue additive, where you can just fill at terminals which are next to the diesel fuel. On the dashboard, it will actually tell you when you're running out of that. There isn't a gauge for it, but it will give you a warning on the dash to tell you that that is becoming low. Don't ignore that, because if that becomes too low, it will go into limp home mode, so it'll cause you problems with driving if you allow that to become dangerously low. So working on again around the motorhome, the first flap here is where the mains goes in. So that's your mains cable. When from new, they come with a mains cable, and it's the end that you put on that's got a little cap on it. So the mains cable is flat on the end. You lift up a flap like that, and the flap slides into that area there, and then to release it, you press that lever down, and that will allow you to release the mains cable from the motorhome. So that's how the mains supply goes into your motorhome. Next to that, we have the service locker. You need to press both sides, so again, a two-handed operation. I'll just get that open. Okay, so that reveals the service locker. First things first then, this is your water tank. That's filled via this nozzle here, so you unscrew that, put a hose pipe into there and fill it until it basically pours out. You can't overfill it. So that's how you fill the tank up. You You can actually see the level here. It's a sort of transparent tank, although it's a bit opaque, you can actually see through it. But there's an indication on the inside of the motorhome with levels on the control panel to show you what level your freshwater tank is. Very important that you drain this down in winter. If you leave water in here, it will expand as it freezes, crack the tank and all the associated pipe work, and that's a very expensive repair. To drain the tank down, as indicated on this sticker here, there's 2 levels that you can do that to. The maxi level, so this little lever here corresponds to the sticker which is here. So the maxi level, to completely fill the tank, you need that in the down position, and then if you lift this up to the vertical position like so, it'll drain it down to a mini level which is 20 litres. So that allows you to calculate weight. 20 litres of water is 20 kilos, so then you know that you're only travelling with 20 kilos of water in the tank, so you can allow for that when you're calculating your payload. To drain the tank down completely, there's a pipe underneath the motorhome, which is just under here. So it's that pipe just there. Chausson supply a little bung that goes over the end of that pipe, and that seals the tank. Now with these Chaussons we're supplying separately a little tap that goes onto that, which just makes it a bit easier, and then you're not pushing and pulling the bung off and on to that tube, which can weaken the end of it. And for anybody that we didn't supply the motorhome to, that's what the bung looks like. It's like a plumber's merchant's part, that it's like a compression fitting that just pushes onto the end of that tube and then again pulls off, but we're supplying with a tap so that you can open and close the tap as required. Okay, so back in the service locker, this door here is hinged. You've got a bank of mains circuit breakers here. So what that does is it deals with the, sorry, let me just get my, there we go. So that deals with, it's basically a safety fuse for the mains circuitry. You can test that you've got a mains supply coming into your motorhome by pressing this button here, and that will flip this circuit breaker down. The next one to it is for the sockets and the other mains circuitry. If that's in the operational position. If it's in the down position like so, then a fuse is tripped. It's like a domestic circuit breaker that you'd expect to see at home. If you have air conditioning fitted, then that circuit breaker becomes applicable. But obviously on this model, being our demo, it doesn't have the air conditioning fitted, so it's redundant. Next to that, we have a bank of 12 volt fuses. So the 12 volt circuits will all have an individual fuse for that circuit. So you can probably see there's one for the pump, one for the lighting, etc, etc. They are detailed and explained in the instruction manual, but that's where the 12 volt fuses are. So if you've got a fault with a 12 volt appliance, like your pump for example, that's the first place to check. The next one along here is the external shower. So the external shower plugs into this. Okay, so Chausson supply this shower head here. You can see on the end of the shower head there, it's got a trigger on the end that will allow the water to flow through the end of this, and then the other end connects into your motorhome, and it does so by just pushing in like that. Line up the pin with the slot, and we just push that in. So that just pushes into there, and then to release it, you can see the collar here. You push that collar back, and that releases the external shower head. So that's used for if you walkers or you've got muddy boots. It'll allow you to wash off your boots outside. If you've been on the beach, wash your feet off. Dog owners like that because it allows them to shower the dog after a walk. Okay, so moving on, the next thing we have here on the external wall of the motorhome, this here is an exhaust for the boiler. So the hot water system, this uses a diesel heater, so this exhaust here is only for the hot water. Whenever you're using it on gas or indeed electric, you should remove this winter cover here. So to do so, you pull at the bottom, and you can probably see the slots there that correspond onto those little nodules. So that really is just a winter cover for when you're traveling as well. It stops road dirt and debris getting into the exhaust of the boiler. If that is left on, the boiler will not ignite on gas, so you'll be trying to light it inside and it'll just keep going to a fault code. It's probably because you've not removed this cover. So in order to get the boiler operational, that must be removed. We've got access to the garage next to that. So in here we have, you can see it's lit. There's anchoring points in each corner. We've got the carpets here. We've got cab carpets. So you've got your habitation carpets there, cab carpets here. There's two forms of what's called silver screens. So these ones are designed to go on the outside, as you can see on the picture there. Sorry, they're the internal ones, and they're designed to stop condensation building up when you're in the motorhome. Obviously, the windscreen is the coldest point, so it stops condensation building up on the inside, and it obviously has insulation properties. So they go on the inside, and they're just fixed in place with suckers. And then the external ones, they go around the doors of the cab, and that covers the windscreen and the side windows. So the fitting instructions for those are in the pack, but as you can see there, that is how they are fitted, and they go over the wing mirrors. And then in this box here, that's the winder for the awning. So it's got an external awning which is wound out using the winder which is in that box there. There is a separate video for the operation of awnings which is on our YouTube channel, and I'll put those in the description for this video that I'm filming now. These rails on the back here are for mounting an optional bike rack. We can do that at the dealer if you want us to do that. They can be fitted here at the dealership. Up at the top here there is a small lens that is for the reversing camera, and you'll be able to see through that on the display which is mounted on the dashboard. We've just got access through to the garage again from the other side, and we've explained the things in there. I've got the bits and bobs that come with the motorhome as standard, and the noteworthy things I'll cover now. So the first thing is, this doesn't come with a spare wheel. You've got a kit here to repair a puncher. So this is like a compressor that will pump up tyres, and then if you want to repair the tyre, there's some repair foam in here which is screwed onto the compressor itself, and that will pump the repair foam into a tyre if you're unlucky enough to get a puncture. It comes with a towing guy, so if you need to be towed by a recovery or towed off a muddy field, then that's the towing guy. That's screwed into the bumper at the front of the motorhome. One very important thing to keep safe is this has alloy wheels, and it does have a locking wheel nut which is just here, and it is very difficult to ascertain which locking wheel nut this is if you lose it, because they're all colour coded, as you'll see. So it comes in a bag like that, and it's shown there. Look, this is the grey one, but there's a number of different colours, so it's important to keep that safe. It comes with the cable, so that's the cable inside that grey bag coiled up there. We've got the shower head, which we've already explained. It comes with a carbon monoxide sensor and a smoke detector, which is all in the pack. As you can see there, we've got the smoke detector and the carbon monoxide sensors in there as well. This is a hose that will connect up your gas bottle. So the gas locker's just here. It only takes one bottle, this, because you're not using your gas to heat the motorhome, you're using the diesel system, which we'll come to in a second. This end of the hose goes onto the top of this regulator here, and then that end goes into your gas bottle. Obviously we've not got a gas bottle fitted here, it doesn't come with gas, so that needs to be part of the kit that you will need to get the motorhome operational. Doesn't need a regulator either, because you've got an inline regulator, so that regulates the pressure, the high pressure that's coming out of the bottle itself, and you switch the gas on and off via the bottle, the tap that's on top of the bottle itself. Again, something we can dealer fit here at the dealership is a refillable system. That's a separate system which is filled externally, and it uses a refillable bottle which we fit into the gas locker. Okay, so moving on from the gas locker then, you can see there's a sticker there which indicates the wastewater tank. So the wastewater tank is mounted underneath the motorhome again, and you pull that lever there with the black handle towards you to empty it, and as you can probably see, there's a rod there that goes onto the end of that tap there, and that's where the wastewater is dispensed once you open this. So it's a pull on that lever and a push to close it. So you pull on it to open the tank, and then push it forward to close the tank. Next to that, we have an external gas supply. So what that does is it taps into the bottle which is in here, and then you can power a barbecue or an external heater or any external gas appliance. So that's where the supply goes into. There's a little piece of copper that's required that is pushed into the end of that, and it's a very similar fit to the hose which I showed you around the other side. So you push the little brass fitting in that is required, and then push that collar back to release it. So that's the collar that you push back there, and the fitting goes into the end of there. That's a tap just to switch it on and off. So that's your external barbecue point. Next to that, we have the toilet cassette. To empty this, again, there's an indication inside to tell you when that's requires emptying. The same with the wastewater tank which we've just discussed. So there's a level indicator on the control panel. To empty this, you push that in like so, and then that reveals what's known as the toilet cassette. To get this out of its housing, you push that little handle up there and slide this back. This would then be the container of toilet waste. There is a cap that goes onto the end of this spout here, so normally there'd be a cap on the end of there. You unscrew that cap and then pour the waste away as you're turning the cassette over. As you're doing so, press this button in here. It releases the vacuum that will be in the container, so it lets air in as you're pressing this as the liquid is flowing out, and then it allows it to go out in one flow, and then it's not glugging and splashing. To get the chemical, so once you've emptied it, then you can fill it again with water, rinse it out, and then empty it again. To gain access into this, to put the chemical into it, you slide that cover back, open this blade up here, and you've got access into this. So what you would need to do is put the sachet in there, or the required amount of toilet chemical, and then just a little bit of water into the bottom, and then it's ready to use again once you've rinsed it. This cassette is on wheels, so you can see it's got wheels at the bottom there, and it has an extendable handle on the top. So this is the handle, and then it allows you to wheel it over to the disposal point, so it makes it easier to take it over to on sites. They'll have a waste disposal point, and then to put this back in, simple reverse operation. Just line the wheels up like so, push the cassette back into place. You must make sure that that little lever that I used to open the valve is facing the correct way, which is that way. If it's sort of turned that way, you won't get this cassette back in. Don't force it back in, otherwise you will damage the mechanism. Okay, next to the cassette there, you can probably see these vents here. These are for the fridge. So what it does is it draws cool air in at the bottom and expels it out of the top vent. It's more important in hot conditions that the fridge is vented, and also you can buy separate winter covers that will cover this up, and then that prevents heavy wind or road dirt and debris getting into those vents as you're traveling. They're bought separately, they don't come with it. Again, we can probably supply those to people who order them in advance for collection. So it is important that they're kept clean because it is ventilation for the fridge. The main door here is slightly wider on this year's model, and it's got different detailing on there, so it's a wider door this year. It is very important to remember that the Ford cab, if you get out of the driver's seat, spin the seat around and just go back into the habitation area and then come out of this door having left the keys in the motorhome, it will auto lock. Okay, so just make sure that you're keeping your keys on you at all times, because it's okay if you open and close the driver's door. It tells the computer not to auto lock, but we've had a few customers that have forgotten to do that. They've left the keys inside. Because it's centrally locked, the Ford cab locks, auto locks as a safety feature, and then it will, if you've closed this door, it will also lock that. And if your keys are left inside, then you're in trouble, because you won't be able to gain access to the motorhome. So either keep your keys separate, or bear in mind that there is an auto lock function on this particular motorhome. Okay, so above the door we've got the awning, and as I said, there's a separate video for that which I'll include in the description. There's an awning light there which is switched on from inside the motorhome. That's done on the control panel. So we'll go on inside the motorhome now and I'll show you the controls inside there. So I'll work from the front to the back. As you can see, this is an automatic, so it's self-explanatory really. The gear lever has got the controls on it here, so park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then you've got manual. So if you put that into M, it's thinking that you're going to automatically select your own gears via this selection lever here. So just leave it in drive unless you want to use the gears yourself, which is useful if you're descending a hill and you don't want to press the brake pedal. You can use engine braking. That's where the reverse camera is displayed. Now these come sat-nav ready. They don't have sat-nav built into them. If you want to make it into a sat-nav model, then you can put the memory card that's required with the map information into that little slot there. That's a chargeable item and it's not standard equipment. To swivel the seats around, there's a little bar underneath the seat, and it's this one here above the sliding mechanism for the seat. So that takes you forward and back. That one, if you pull it towards the front like so, that will allow you to swivel the seat around. Just while we're dealing with the cab controls and the seating, some people struggle with the handbrake on this model. It's designed to flop back down to the bottom position. So this handbrake is now on, but it's, as you can see, it's flopping back down. So that makes it easier to swivel the seat around. It doesn't get in the way as you're getting in and out of the vehicle. So although this handbrake is on, it's gone back down to the down position. To release it, you bring it up to its biting point, press the button in, and then release it, and then it will go down. Okay, and then to re-engage it, you can hear it engaging. Okay, so that's engaged, and then it flops back down. That's just a brief explanation of the handbrake on this model. Okay, so back to the controls at the front of the motorhome. This box here, which is above the passenger's seat, near the skylight, which is just here, there's a key that's required to go into that to get the bed operational. Okay, so there's a key that goes into that, and that must be put in there and turned for the bed to go up and down. Okay, so that's the key in there. So it must look like that in order for the electric bed to go up and down. Some models have an electric table as well, but the key must be like that in order for those particular functions to work. If the bed was to get stuck, or the battery go flat, or the motor burn out, or the fuse go and you haven't got a spare one, this entire cowling here, as you can probably see, it's loose there, that comes off, and then it reveals like an Allen key on the end of the motor. And what you do is you put this mechanism onto it, and then you can probably see that's like an Allen key, and then you can see on the end it turns. So that allows you to wind the bed up and down. So it's just an override, a manual override for the bed mechanism if that should get stuck. Okay, so while we're on the subject of the bed then, with the control for the bed, the switch is just here. So if you press down on that, you see the bed electrically comes down, and then there's a ladder that clips onto here that gives you access into the bed. When you're pushing this back up, it will go back up with bedding on it, but don't force this bed up to its highest position with bedding on it. You will blow a fuse. So it's designed not to be sitting on the roof. It's designed to have a gap around it. You want that anyway, because you need airflow around there. If the bedding and the pillow is touching there and it's left for any period of time, condensation will build up and you're at the risk of getting mould on the headlining of the motorhome. Okay, so the seating area behind the cab also doubles up as seat belted seats. So underneath here there's a section that it's flat like that, and then it comes back via a quarter turn on that dial there, and then it reveals like a backing to give you seat belted seats. It's exactly the same on that side as it is this side. I'll just make this side up so that you can see how that operates. Okay, so all I've done there is take the cushions off, give that a quarter turn on there, and that allows you to spring back this back into the seat. There's headrests which are stored just there, so you need to put the headrest on it, and as you can probably see, that gives you a seat belt, and then the retainer for the seat belt is just there as well. Some dog owners like to have this separate so that you can put the lead into there and have the dog sitting here, so obviously you can get the attachments for leads that go into the end of seat belts, and then you just put the cushions back. Put the cushions back in like so, and that gives you your forward facing seat belted seats. Exactly the same operation on that side. The table will drop down as well. There's no need for on this model to make the lower bed up because we've got the electric drop down bed, but the table will drop down. You can see it's a telescopic leg on it there. That's done by pressing that red lever and pushing firmly on the center, and as you can see, it's a leaf table like that folds down and makes a base for the bed. Not on this model because we've got the optional drop down bed. Okay, so I've lifted this side up only because that's where the charger unit is. Okay, so that's the charger unit. If you ever get a problem with the vehicle not charging, then this is the first place to look. There's a button on the charger which will go red when it's operational, so that's the charger button there, and that's where you would look to make sure that the charger is operational. So that's where the charger is housed. Again, so moving front to back in this motorhome, this is the control panel. So to switch the main 12 volts system on, it's done via that green button there. The blue button indicates that that's your light. In actual fact, you've got to have that blue button switched on in order for the vehicle to charge. So both those buttons need to be on for it to charge and give you your battery, keep your battery in good condition. Next to that, we've got the water pump. So what that does is it pumps water from the water tank, which I showed you outside, through all the pipe work and eventually out of your tap. So what you need to do is switch that pump on like so, and prime the system. So you do that by opening up your tap on hot and cold, wait until you get a pure flow of water coming out on hot and then cold, and then you know that you've filled up your boiler and the water system is ready to use. There's no point switching on your boiler until you've got that pure flow of water coming out of there, otherwise you're just heating thin air in your boiler. You've got the external light switch, which is just there. Level indicator for your leisure battery, so that's your leisure battery indication. Level indicator for your engine battery. Fresh water level. Brightness of the control panel, so you can actually change the brightness of this control panel. If it's somebody sleeping in the bed which is just above here, it's useful that you can do that, and then it's not shining in their eyes. Next to that we have the controls for the heating. Really straightforward, so it's digitalized now. A basic overview, and there's an instruction manual separately, but a basic overview. To wake this up, you just give it a turn on the dial. Okay, and then this wheel here, you scroll through this. Okay, so the first one is you can add a timer to it. If you want to go back on any of these functions, you press this button here and it takes you back. Okay, so, and then the main heating control is this one here. So if you go into that, you can select normal, boost, or eco. And then you're selecting your temperature. So 21 degrees room temperature. Then when the heater's on, this green light comes on here. So if you just want to switch your heater on, that's as simple as it needs to be. So that's heating at 21 degrees. When you first switch that on, you will get the lights flickering. It's just a feature of the heater. It draws a lot of power, a lot of amps when it's first. Okay, and then the next one along, when you're on this main control panel, is just a ventilation. Okay, so you can have 4 different levels that the fan can run at. So basically that's just circulating air around the motorhome without any heat. Okay, so you've got your timers, heat and ventilation. To go back, you're pressing this button. To scroll around the menus, you're pressing that button. And to select, you press the wheel in the centre. Okay, we've got some light switches here, just there and there. That's a thermostat for the Webasto heating, so that's where it draws the information about the temperature in the motorhome. There's also another switch there which controls, I think, the lights that are underneath the bed. Yeah, so that main switch there controls the lights that are under the bed. Your kitchen area, fairly straightforward. The controls for the hob are on the front. Just one noteworthy thing, don't bring this glass lid down. When this is still hot, that will remain hot for a long period of time. It's obviously metal, stays hot. If you bring that down when that's red hot still, it'll shatter the lid, which obviously you don't want. All the blinds and fly screens are operated in a similar manner, so you squeeze these together, draw that up, and it's any increment that you want, like so. And then the fly screen will come and connect onto that, so you can have half and half. But to get this up and down, you draw those two together like so. Okay, so working our way towards the back of the motorhome, we've got the main entrance door here. On this in this cupboard here, we've got the fridge. So this is what's known as a 3-way fridge. To switch this on, it's a long press on the on button there. This button here will select the power source that you want. So you've got gas, which is perfectly efficient. It'll get cold and run on gas. You've got mains there, so as you're scrolling through, again, perfectly efficient, will run all day on mains. And then 12 volt, that's really only while you're traveling, so it's transit cooling. You need to get it cold first on one of the other power sources, whether that be gas or electric, and then switch it to that when you're traveling. If you want to make life easy, then you can just select this one here, which is auto, so that will automatically select the most relevant power source. It'll try and find electric first, then gas, then 12 volt. This is a temperature control, so what that does is, well, make the fridge work harder or less hard. Obviously on a really cold day like today, you don't need the fridge to work very hard, and just leave it on the lower settings and assess how it performs. On a really hot day, then turn it up. But if you put it to the highest setting on a cold day, it'll ice up. And to switch the fridge off, it's a long press again on that button there. This is your TV cabinet, so if you want the optional television fitting, that's where it would go. To open this up, you press on this lever here and pull this out. You can then pull this lever down here, and that'll allow you to adjust the position of the television left and right, and then if you unscrew that lever on the end there, that'll allow you to tilt it. if you want us to fit some optional extras like a television aerial, then that's where the television aerial would go. Again, we tend to fit Wi-Fi in that area as well. So that cupboard can be filled with things, just if you're considering using that for storage. Moving on then, we have the shower area it's got the duct board in the bottom. That can be taken out. I recommend you leave it in. If you drop heavy containers of shower fluid and things onto the exposed plastic tray, then it can damage the tray. Similarly, I would take the shower head off its clip there when you're traveling, because if that falls onto the plastic lined shower tray, then it can damage it. When you're traveling, make sure that this is closed with the latch over, because otherwise these doors will flap about and you're in danger of cracking the plastic. The door here, that folds across and it will separate the shower room from the rest of the front of the motorhome, basically. Okay, so moving on to the bathroom area. The main thing I need to show you in here is the toilet. So to use that, you lift up the lid. This lever here on that slides across like that is opening and closing that valve that I showed you on the toilet cassette. So if you're going to use the toilet, open the lid, slide that across, use the toilet, then press the flush button, which is here. You need the pump switched on for that to work, and then just make sure you close the valve back up using the sliding valve here, because otherwise when you're traveling, you'll get whatever liquid is in the toilet cassette sloshing around in there, which you don't want. When the toilet cassette's full, there's a little illumination that appears there, and that'll tell you that the toilet cassette's full. You can actually see down into the toilet to see what level the toilet waste is reaching. The toilet chemical breaks all that down, so it's not an unpleasant thing. You know, it's all blue, and it gets rid of all the smells. The light switches for the bathroom are just here. Some people struggle with finding that, and I can see why, because it's hidden. The controls for the boiler, so we're in the bedroom area here, and there's not a lot really more to say about the bedroom area, but the controls for the boiler are here. I'll just sit down and show you that. So you've got two functions on electric. So if you want to run it on electric, if you're plugged in, then there's no point using up your gas unless you want to heat it up very quickly. You've got, I think that's 2 kilowatts or 1 kilowatt. So you've got a rocker switch here. And the reason for that is, if you're on a low ampage site, then use the lower setting, which is the upper position. In the middle it's off, and then the lower position is the higher kilowatt. And I think it's 1 kilowatt and 2 kilowatt. The one above it is for gas. So again, you need the cowling on the outside vent removed in order to ignite this on gas. It's automatic ignition. You've got two temperatures, so 70 at the bottom. Again, it's a rocker switch. 70 at the bottom. In the middle, it's off. 50 at the top. The way I would use it is just leave it on 70 and mix it with cold water, and then you've got a lot of warm water. There is an indication light here to tell you that it hasn't ignited. When you first put gas onto the motorhome, you'll probably find that you maybe need to switch this on and off a few times. Once that red light appears there, it won't ignite. So for example, if you didn't take off the cowling off the outside, that's one reason it wouldn't ignite. If the gas fuel hasn't yet reached the boiler, then you may need to bleed that through a few times by switching it on, and then it will go to fail. Obviously we've not got any gas connected at the moment, so it's trying to ignite. It won't ignite, so you'll get this warning light here. Once that happens, it'll never ignite. It won't try again. You've got to then switch it off, wait for the light to go out, and then start the process again. You may need to do that 3 or 4 times. Okay, I'm just in the area here between the two single beds. Under there is the water pump. Just pointing that out in case it ever needs attention. You can see the fuses over that, so that's where the water pump is housed, just for general information. Above that cover there is a bank of taps. You really don't need to mess with those. They isolate the individual boiler and cooker, etc. So you can isolate an individual gas appliance, but you should never need to worry about those. Okay, just one final thing then before we conclude. I've just shown you the controls for the boiler and how to switch that on. It's very important that you drain the boiler down. Now I'm in the garage area here, as we've already covered. There's a little hatch here which gives you access to, you can probably just see that yellow lever there. That is a drain for the boiler. Okay, so that is a means of draining all the water out of the boiler when it's not in use, or whenever you know, you've got cold conditions. It's important that you drain all the water from the boiler. That is in the open position. Okay, so that is a lever that can be flipped over like so. That is in the closed position, so that's the functional position. So that's the, you're going to use the boiler and allow it to retain all the water inside. That's how it must look. But for winter, or whenever you're not using the vehicle, lift that up. So that is one of the drain down points for the motorhome. So just going back to the drain down points, you've got one in here, which is underneath the motorhome, which I said we would fit a tap to. You've got the boiler drain, which is just there in the garage, and you've got the wastewater as well. Just when you're draining down the motorhome, make sure the taps are open in the kitchen. So open your kitchen taps and the taps in the bathroom. What that does is it allows air to come in as the liquid is pouring out onto the floor once you've opened up all the drain down points. Okay, so that concludes the demonstrational video for the motorhome. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have that have arisen from this demonstrational video, and we look forward to seeing you if you've ordered one of these, and on the day that you collect your new motorhome, we can answer any questions that you may have on the day that you collect your lovely new motorhome.